This is Hian. It's going to be talking about the work labor staffing company that I'm thinking about launching on the EOS platform. Now, I just want to continue to the story I had before. If you haven't seen this, click on the link below. I'll link it to the past presentation or story of how I think the monetary system would be a little more stronger if we had it backed by labor and work. Now I want to talk about the gold system. The gold system is doing great until usually when war breaks out. So I think Athens, Rome, UK, Germany, they all kind of face the same problems. I mean, if they're on the standard system, they prosper, but as soon as war happens and they have to send troops out, buy materials, it's a war is a resource war actually. If you can cut off supplies, fuel, food, steel, equipment, things that you need for the war machine to keep running, you basically lose the war. So there's tactics where people or other country will choke out or cut supply lines, and not have supplies be delivered where they need to be. And so, same thing with gold. It is also part of a supply. When that supply runs out, then what do you do as a country when you run out of gold? You basically either lose the war, or you kind of like naturally, and without it's like a natural progression. It's like you either just surrender or you have a fighting chance if you just printed more money to continue the war and win the war. Otherwise, your whole country be demolished, and you lose, and your people will be enslaved to the next country. Who knows, and all that other stuff, right? So naturally, they just print more money, and that's what every great empire did. Rome, Athens, all that other stuff. They ran out of money. They printed more. And so you see, and nowadays when same thing with America, where we got engaged with Vietnam and all North Korea or in South Korea, whatever Korea stuff, Afghanistan and all that stuff, and then we ran out of money, or people started taking the gold out of the out of our Federal Reserve System. So Nixon had to cut that gold system before all the gold gets left, run out, and so they had to start printing money too, right? And so you see the natural progression again. It's you watch on Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. It's kind of the same thing. And then of course we always want to go back and reset the cycle, and it's just going back to it resets the system all over again, and it's gonna naturally progress again. So hopefully I've driven that repetition, that gold standard and all this other stuff backed by things in the vault runs out. Okay, but what we have is the people, our time, our labor. We have hundreds of millions of people with hundreds of millions of labor hours that we can put in that can be backed by that. That's in a sense it's a limited supply, because each new day everyone gets a new 24 hours, right? To put in, or 8 hours a day you want to burn yourself out. But and on top of that, we have babies, and then when these babies grow up, they can also put more labor hours into it too, put more work, and each of our labor hours is our time and our freedom, and there's a unit of value in there. And we'll talk about later whether how do we measure that value between a janitor versus the doctor. Are their time equal? It is the same time. I don't think anyone can be any different, except that the doctor did put a little extra time acquiring his doctor skills. So we're going to have to account for that somehow, in some way. And it is true that maybe a janitor can go to a doctor and say, hey, I'm willing to work for you and your practice, maybe help you clean the floors or bathrooms or whatever, for 10 hours for 1 hour of your time to help me, pull my teeth or something, or if he's a dentist, or do a surgery that takes him an hour, but he is willing to put 10 hours in it. So that's for the open market to decide. But there's a possibility there, but I'm sure there's some kind of system that we kind of put in place to do that. But also to keep in mind that the janitor's life and the doctor's life is all in equal value in a sense, but it's what they can perform with that time, and how much you're willing to negotiate and trade. That we need to kind of sort out later on. But anyways, going back to the war situation, if we were backed by labor, time, and each and every person who contributed to that effort to protect the country from an offensive strike or whatever it is. Back in the day, if you think about, I was watching Genghis Khan. They're like, "Hey, would you join me in this war to pillage this town or protect us and whatever? And if we win, you get to enjoy the spoils." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, that makes sense. I'll risk my life to and send in my troops so we can join the spoils to take that home." There's a benefit for that, right? But in a sense, when it's backed by labor, and that labor coin, in a sense, indebts the system or the staffing company or whatever you want to call it to them, and whatever spoil is accumulated or attained, in a sense, is a dividend for holding those tokens, rather than just a, here's some fake money, thanks, and that's it. In a sense, so when they know that these tokens are, in a sense, an asset value, an ownership share, and if the more you accumulate, the more dividends it kicks out, you actually want to hold back from the system instead of inflating it. So people want more and more of that, in a sense, as they work more and retain more and kind of likely to spend less, but at the same time not to overinflate it with lots of labor hours. But people also, there's a balance there. You kind of see it. There's an opportunity to inflate, but an incentive to keep from circulation, because the more they keep from circulation, the more dividends are paid out. The more they circulate, then which is fine. You can, circulate, which is a good thing. That means the more money is flowing around. There's economy going on, and there's not a recession, if you call it, because there's enough money flowing around. All right, so when that flows, then whoever then obtains it also retains the dividends from that. So that's just kind of a something to think about on the history of money and our fiat system. How if we always go back to the gold system, it's just a never-ending cycle, and it needs to be a revolutionary type of thinking where we can document human labor, where human labor can be backed as a record to then exchange for other human labor and other services, in a sense, and then have a sub level where those services can then be exchanged for things of this world, kind of thing. And I think that things are it's in abundance. Gold, like for example, resources, trees, wood, minerals, they're already there. Why are we putting value on them when it's already freely given to us by our creator, God, who created everything, right? It's already there. But what gave it value is because the work that was put into extracting it, the work put into assembling it, the work put into building it or demolishing it, cultivating it. It's all the human work that's put in, and that's the true unit of value of it all. Instead of putting the value on a piece of ounce of gold, which is already freely given, somehow you found a bunch of these and all of a sudden you're rich. Well, it's already there. You didn't do anything to create it, but the work was put in to extract it. You can kind of see what I'm trying to say here. So it's a I don't know, call it fool's end to try to put a unit of store value onto things when things are already there for us. But the store of value is actually in the work to do that. So if that was documented, if someone knows how to mine for gold and put that into it and extract it out, and with that work of mining was documented, and someone says, hey, I want you to mine for oil or mine for something else or whatever, I'll trade your mining work for my food, because when you mine you get hungry. All right, then they make an exchange, and then you can hire a miner who knows the expertise of the geographic land or whatever it is, and mine not just gold but other things. And those are services that are more important to trade rather than the actual physical material that comes out. Something to think about. Let me know. And this is something to build upon. Tomorrow I'm gonna, not tomorrow, but I don't know, whenever I get around to, I'll talk about other and elaborate on this system. And if you agree with it or you have comments, suggestions on how to audit and things like that, there's a lot of details that I haven't really sorted out yet. But as I think about it, I'll make the videos for it. And then I think I'll have my team start to kind of put this into a book, maybe, document this and kind of find a structured way. And ultimately, we'll talk about systems, documentation, because that is the core of everything. Just like our Constitution, I say, which is documented. But that means nothing if there's nothing to enforce it. So ultimately, there has to be some kind of physical enforcement or code enforcement, or some kind of a digitalized enforcement. Okay, because if we knew that there's no cop, watching us run through a red light, we're gonna run it, you know. But because we know there's a consequence and it's enforced, we obey it. And it's just like any business too. It's not just a business plan that we write and put aside, and then the kids and the workers are running astray. There's a project manager that will enforce it. If you're not obeying this or following the rules or the regulations, then or the way it's done and keeping up the standards, the quality, or whatever, then you're out. You know. All right, that's it for now. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you later. Subscribe to my D2 for more updates. And if you have any questions, comment below. Share it if you think this is a great idea. And eventually, I'll put something out. If I see a lot of, what's it called, attention in this, then I'll put more attention into it also. Otherwise, there's other things to focus on. If this is important to you guys, or it's totally like doesn't make sense, it's gonna fail, and you guys think so, let me know, so I don't keep doing this, because poke holes in it, and challenge it. Let me know if it doesn't make sense, if I'm just insane or whatever. I don't know, but I'm just coming with a better system, maybe instead of having to repeat the process over again with a new SDR that's backed by more Fiat and more whatever. So, all right, guys, talk to you later. Goodbye.